Sea, it is totally militarized. It's a region which encompasses some 70% of global oil and gas reserves, at least according to the estimates. Now, 70% of global oil and gas reserves is something about 30 times those of the United States of America. So we can understand the strategic, the economic and strategic nature of this region. We see, of course, Saudi Arabia, the country with the largest reserves, followed by Iraq with 11% of total oil and gas reserves. Iran is number 3. And essentially this war is a war of conquest of oil reserves. It's not the sole purpose of this war, but it is certainly one of the key objectives, is to secure, control, and confiscate, of course, the resources and assets of the countries under attack. Iran is the next phase of this war. This is not a rhetorical question. It has been confirmed in military documents and press reports. In this particular case, and it's also an important landmark, Israel is slated to play a direct role in the bombing campaign, so that we are evolving from an Anglo-American military axis, which is based on the integration of American and British interests in the oil industry as well as in the military-industrial complex, to the participation of Israel directly in a military operation directed against Iran. The preparations for this campaign have already been completed. I should mention that this involves also the participation of Turkey. There have been joint military exercises which occurred earlier this year, and there has been a large stockpiling of both conventional as well as nuclear weapons in preparation for a possible bombing. I'm not suggesting that the bombing will necessarily take place or when it will take place, but it is part of the process of military planning, and at this stage the military alliance is in a state of readiness, and Israel is slated to play the major role in this military operation. Now, if you look at the region and you have an understanding of the geopolitics, you'll realize immediately that if Israel becomes officially part of the military axis, it's unofficial up to now, immediately what's going to happen is that the war is going to spread to the entire Middle Eastern region. Okay? We have here distinct war theaters, essentially Afghanistan, Iraq, and Palestine. But as soon as this conflict extends into Iran and Syria, the entire Middle Eastern region will flare up, and we should not exclude, as Helen Caldicott warned this morning, that the military alliance will not use nuclear weapons. Why? Because in the logic of military planning, these nuclear weapons have already been reclassified. And that means that a 3-star general could decide, reading the military manual, that these are safe for civilians and go ahead and use them. And he doesn't need any permission to do it. They're stockpiled, they're there, and they are safe for civilians. So if they're safe for civilians, I'm going to use them. And that is precisely the danger which underlies of course, this entire propaganda campaign. Now, if we, I just have one, I hope I get through this in the next 2 minutes, but I think we should understand that the United States is involved in a war, in a global military project. This is a quote from a document which is called The Project for the New American Century. It was released in September 2000, and it identifies very clearly the ultimate objectives of U.S. foreign policy and military strategy. Bear with me. Defend the American homeland, of course, against whom? Against terrorists. In fact, it's a pretext to establish the Homeland Security State and derogate civil rights across the land. But this particular objective, which is so clear, it says, fight and decisively win multiple simultaneous major theater wars. That means that the United States is, from its own statements, involved in a war of global conquest, ultimately targeting Russia and China through these theater wars, as well as what they call constabulary functions, which are the functions of surveillance and control through selective bombing, the sending in of special forces, and so on and so forth. The last objective of the PNAC is essentially the revolution in military affairs, which is a massive development of new weapon systems, nuclear weapons, militarization of space, and so on. So that this is the project, and we are told that the war has a humanitarian mandate, that the war is to weed out terrorists, and I can tell you from extensive research, I obviously do not have the time, that first of all, Al-Qaeda is a creation of the US intelligence apparatus. It's extremely well documented. Many of the terrorist attacks are, in fact, orchestrated by the US intelligence and military. We can go into the details this afternoon, and there's a lot of corroborating evidence. And in conclusion, my recommendation is regime change in the United States of America. Regime change in the United Kingdom. And if we believe in the international system, we have a long history of imposing sanctions. We imposed sanctions on South Africa. Let us debate the issue of imposing economic and political sanctions on the United States of America. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Thank you very